Haise Sasaki, introduced in the epilogue of Tokyo Ghoul as a rank 3 investigator tasked by Special Class Arima to hone his investigator skills by learning from rank 1 investigator Akira Maro, is our first real gateway inside the life of a ghoul investigator. Today we're going to go over Haise Sasaki's character and the tragedy he's experienced throughout the beginning of Tokyo Ghoul Re. This whole analysis is based off the Tokyo Ghoul manga, and if you haven't read the manga, you can check out my video here on why you should definitely give it a go, especially if you have a sour taste in your mouth from watching the absolute train wreck that was the Tokyo Ghoul anime. Nonetheless, this video will contain spoilers for the manga, so you've been warned. It is a little niche to be talking about Haise, as his character is really overshadowed by Kaneki, and for a fair reason. Kaneki is an extremely interesting and complex character. However, Haise, in and of himself, isn't just another part of Kaneki. For a decent period of time, he was his own person, his own character with his own goals, ambitions, thoughts, until all of that was stripped away from him. So I hope you'll enjoy my little dive into our often forgotten and unappreciated character of Haise Sasaki, because my boy Haise really doesn't get enough love. And if you do enjoy the video, of course, as always, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below on your thoughts of Haise Sasaki as a character, or even the manga as a whole. Before we can understand what makes Haise's character so tragic, first, we have to understand how he came to be to begin with, and then discuss how he developed as a person and became who he is when we see him in the Tokyo Ghoul Re manga. Understanding Haise is something a lot of people tend to gloss over, as everyone tries to understand Kaneki and his mentality, and as Haise is quite literally Kaneki, many people just tack Haise into this understanding. However, although yes, Haise is Kaneki, Haise at the end of the day is also his own persona, created from a blank canvas of Kaneki's mind and molded into the person he is by Arima to eventually take on his mantle as the One-Eyed King. Haise Sasaki is Ken Kaneki, but he's not at the same time. It's kind of crazy to think about if something like this would happen to you in your own life. Imagine essentially waking up, not knowing who you are, who your family and friends are, where you live, where you grew up, what TV shows you watched or books you read. You're a clean slate. Whether you like it or not, everyone's personalities take aspects from outside influences they consume throughout childhood and adolescence, whether that be cartoon characters, video game characters, anime characters, teachers, friends and family, and even these days, people look up to and are influenced by YouTubers. So imagine waking up one day and having none of that. What would you do? Who would you become? That blank slate is what Arima saw as an opportunity, and would be the reason he didn't just kill Kaneki instead. Arima has a very unique opportunity to sculpt Kaneki into the perfect ghoul investigator and a successor to himself. He took the shell that remained of Kaneki, slapped a new coat of paint on him, and created Haise Sasaki. A ghoul investigator with a formidable combat prowess, skills, and insane muscle memory from all of his previous combat experience. Although Haise doesn't quite understand why, he makes the most of this opportunity to very quickly climb the ranks of ghoul investigators, and soon enough has his own team of ghoul investigators to work under himself, known as the Quince Squad. The Quince Squad consists of Shirazu Ginshi, Yuri Kuki, Maz Tukitoru, and Yonabashi Saiko. In case you aren't aware of the nature of the Quince Squad, essentially they're a group of experimental ghoul investigators that have Quinces built into their bodies. This allows them to use their Quinces in a unique way, as if they were Kagune, which allows them to have an edge in combat against other ghouls. The procedure is quite raw and definitely not foolproof by any means. All the scientists are really doing is suppressing the RC cells from the inserted Quinces from spreading into the body of the Quince by using a frame, thus preventing them from losing control and potentially turning into a half ghoul like what happened to Kaneki. However, at times, if pushed too hard, like with Yuri, the RC cells can multiply too much, causing the suppression to cease, driving the Quince mad, potentially even going so far as to cause a Kakuja-like shape to form. Although this video isn't about the Quince, I did want to discuss a few aspects of them, as I feel as though in their own way, each of the members have characteristics that relate to Kaneki, which is an interesting dynamic to put Haise in. Although this was never discussed and is very headcanon, this may have been done on purpose by Arima just to see if Heise has grown enough to handle and manage all of these emotions he himself used to experience. So let me explain what I'm getting at through each of the Quints. Starting with Yuri. Yuri is obsessed with getting stronger. He does everything within his power, including going behind his friend's back and disobeying a direct order from Heise, going through with the frame release surgery in order to gain more power. Although Yuri's reasoning is purely selfish, rather than Kaneki's mostly selfless reasons for seeking power, that being in order to protect all of those close to him, the goal and ruthless actions doing whatever is necessary to gain more power, even throwing away their own humanity and losing control, is a mindset Yuri and white-haired Kaneki both share. Next is Shirazu. In contrast to Yuri, he shares his selfless nature with Kaneki. Shirazu decided to join the Quince Squad in order to earn more money to help pay for his sister in hospital. Might as well call him Joey Wheeler. But in all seriousness, the way in which he fights, putting himself face first into danger in order to try and capture or kill the ghouls he faces in order to give his squad the best chance, really reflects his selfless nature. However, unfortunately, this selfless nature ends up being his downfall, when he takes a fatal blow giving Yuri an opening to take out Noro. Next is Mitsuki. The conflict of identity is what binds him and Kaneki. Mitsuki is biologically a female, however, felt discomfort in being a female, which is evidently shown during the torso investigation. Thus, Mitsuki adopts to be referred to and treated as a male. And although not the same situation, it's possible to draw a connection between this and Kaneki's internal conflict of identity when first becoming a ghoul. Lastly is Saiko, who has the loosest connection to Kaneki, but there's still something to be said about her. It's her helplessness and lack of confidence in herself. It's not that she isn't strong or capable, but in general she's pretty lazy. I wouldn't call Kaneki lazy, but the lack of confidence in one's own abilities, I think that can definitely relate back to Kaneki. So, Quince Squad tangent aside, I think now you might be able to see why it's at least somewhat relevant to Haise Sasaki's character development throughout the start of Tokyo Ghoul Re. He's already conflicted due to not knowing his past and seeing all these personalities that probably feel somewhat familiar to himself is more than likely off-putting in one way or another. Okay, so we've got a bit of a better understanding of Haise, the environment he's in, and the people he's associating with. So what makes his character so tragic? It's the torment. The inner turmoil. In a way, the Quince Squad is also its own form of torment for him too, because I truly believe that Arima wanted Kaneki to gain his memory back. It was essential for his plan to hand over the mantle of the One-Eyed King. So, although, as I said, it is quite headcanon, I feel as though in some capacity, Arima influenced the formation of the Quince Squad to consist of members that may remind Heise of his former self. Regardless, Heise doesn't know who he is, but he knows what his values are, at least he thinks he does. He also knows no matter how much is kept from him, he has a past. He kind of just came out of nowhere. He knows that he is Haise Sasaki, but deep down he knows that he isn't Haise Sasaki, and that kills him inside. That would mean all the relationships he made since waking up and becoming Heise mean nothing. His bond with the father figure and mother figure of Arima and Mado, the bonds he's made with the Quince Squad and the hurdles they've overcome, as well as everything he himself has learnt from them, as I mentioned earlier, as well as all of his accomplishments being such a high-ranking ghoul investigator at such a young age, and truly being the successor to Arima, who he sees as his own father, would all mean absolutely nothing. Heise doesn't want all of this to go away. We can see him struggle deep down in his own mind frequently, as Kaneki is trying to come out. He is Kaneki after all, but he doesn't feel like Kaneki, and it takes a long time for him to truly come to terms with the fact that, although Haise Sasaki does exist, he can't exist forever. And although that painted blank slate will start to crack, and eventually come clean off the wall, Kaneki is not the kind of person to forget all of his experiences. He will take them, and he will learn from them. And while Kaneki continues to persist and convince Heise to hand over the reins, eventually something in Heise has to give, and eventually he comes to terms with the fact that he can't exist forever. And in time, he hands himself over to Kaneki, not out of fear, but out of hope for a better future. There had to come a point where it was time for the innocence of Haise Sasaki to end, and the brutality and will to push forward of Ken Kaneki to come to fruition once more. That is the tragedy of Haise Sasaki, the man who had to give his soul back to its rightful owner in a more metaphorical way. So, I hope you all enjoyed this more analytical video on Tokyo Ghoul. A lot of you seem to enjoy my other Tokyo Ghoul video, and I'm sure some of you subscribe because of it, so I couldn't just leave you all hanging. I'll definitely be making more Tokyo Ghoul videos in the future, but man, I have so many videos planned and such little time, it gets a bit overwhelming. So I hope you can all be patient with me if the Tokyo Ghoul content is what you look forward to. Nonetheless, hope you all have a great day. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment on your thoughts, and I'll see you all next time.